Yo guys, how you doing today? This is Riley of the Big Thinking Aussie here. Today we're going to be talking about ways to get started investing, not only on the ASX but also in some global style stocks. So anyway, today I'm going to be walking you through how to get started and basic ways to start putting your money in the stock market. So the first platform I'm going to be talking about is Commsec. So Commsec is just a basic brokerage for the Commonwealth Bank, and it helps you get into the ASX stock market at quite a reasonable brokerage fee. But there's several other websites and apps for other big banks like NAB Trade, and I'm sure Westpac and whatnot have one. So anyway, Commsec in particular. When you get started with Commsec, you make an account. The first thing you're going to want to do is jump over to the NetBank section of Commsec and create one of the investment accounts. So it's essentially just a bank account. It's free to create. It's called like a CDIA or whatever. And what that's going to allow you to do is get a $20 discount on all brokerage fees for Commsec. So basically, when I jumped on Commsec first and I started buying and selling, I was paying like a $30 brokerage fee, which is pretty steep. Now, when you create one of those CDIA accounts through NetBank, which is just on the Commsec website, it's pretty hard to miss. You create one of those and it's just a $10 brokerage fee for buying and selling, so $20 discount. So go do that first. The next step is basically you want to do your research. So with Commsec, obviously you're going to want to go over to the quotes and research tab over here and essentially have a look at all the sectors, what's performing well, how the ASX 200 is doing. Now, Commsec is good for having easy access to all the Australian stocks. It's got quite a decent website where you can have a look at graphs and whatnot. We'll get to how to look at most of the global, the big stocks, the large cap stocks globally. We'll get to that later in the video. But for now, we're just going to have a look at what to do. So you can jump onto all the sectors and look at how each, all the big companies in each sector are doing. If you want to go to look at the companies in specifically, you hop over to the company tab, you put in a code or whatever you're looking at the moment. So if you're a big fan of Afterpay or Apple, so Apple's not on here, ANZ or all those kind of Aussie companies which are on the ASX, type the code in and you'll get to a page like this. Now this page essentially shows you what price the stocks are trading at, how much they've changed over the day. There's a few important sort of figures here that you're going to want to know. So you're going to look at the volume, that's the amount of shares traded or shares outstanding. You got the market cap, which is basically the total value of all the shares traded at the given price that it is now. Also, you're going to have this graph here. This is just a line chart. That's what's going to come up first, which is easy to read. You can kind of change the time zone kind of thing. I like looking at the candlestick charts, as I'll go through later when we look at plus 500. So that's all well and good. You're going to want to look over here and have a look at the P ratio, earnings per share. It's kind of got a tab where it tells you, the definition and what's it going to be used for. So you can use these to calculate average price on return for shares, as well as if you want a 5% return over 10 years, you can kind of plug it into a formula and get a share price which would be fair to buy into today. So that's really useful, and I might have a video coming out in the future how to kind of get to a fair value price for a share. So going down the page, we have the price to book ratio as well as the beta. Now the price to book is just the current price per share divided by the book value per share, so measuring the value of shareholders' ownership in the balance sheet, as well as beta. So beta is basically the risk involved with the market movements and the volatility with the share price. So that's just for plugging into formulas and working out certain ways to give you an advantage on trading. So we can go through that in a later date. Also down the bottom you have some recommendations from some of the biggest financial companies like Goldman Sachs and Morningstar and all that. So that's all good. Further down you'll have dividend yield, you'll have franking credits. So with the ASX, franking credits actually give you kind of like a greater return for your dividends. It's to do with tax. I can go through that in a later video, but we're just going to keep moving. You're going to get your dividend dates, how often it is, and whatnot. So that's basically how you research a stock on the ASX or Commsec in particular. Once you've done that, or you're finding stocks that you like, you can go ahead and add them to your watch list. You can also look down here at the announcements and what kind of announcements and reports, quarterly reports, appendixes. Obviously the Banking Royal Commission just came out on ANZ, so there's information about that, and whatever's happening with the share price, you can find that there. And then you have a bunch of other tabs which you can explore by yourself. So add it to your watch list and look at your watch lists. I'd recommend using Commsec as a tool for long-term investing. So if you want to invest in some of the Aussie banks so you can get a consistent growth in the future, that might be a good tool for you. So the last thing I will just say about Commsec is that when you're buying and selling, you essentially go over to this trading tab, buy or sell, you put in the code, so ANZ or whatever. Now you get here, you can either put in the quantity of shares you want. So say if you got $1,000, you divide that 1,000 by the share price, and that's the quantity that you're going to want to put in. Alternatively, you can just put in your money value, amount of capital here. Now down here you can choose a price limit or at market. So what that means is you can put a price that you'd want to buy in at, whether it's much lower than the share price or what, you can put that in there, or you can choose the market value, so whatever it's trading at right now, or if you're buying in after the market's closed, whatever it's opening at the next day. So you can either have that as an expiry, so that order will expire maybe a week from now if the share price doesn't reach that limit, or you can do good for day, meaning that the your order will execute that day and that day only if it hits that price, and if it doesn't, it's that's it for your order. You don't buy the shares if it doesn't reach your price limit. So you kind of get a order value, brokerage and cost, which is $10 if you open that account like I mentioned, and that's essentially how you buy and sell with the ASX. Yo guys, so the next part of the video today we're going to be talking about Plus500. So Plus500 is a really easy way to get started on the global exchange market, or any kind of stocks at all, to be honest. It trades commodities, cryptocurrencies, currency exchange, so like Forex. So yeah, it's a great way to get started on all those markets. So basically, when you get started on Plus500, you can go ahead and use the demo mode. So the demo mode is great because you can basically hop on and have, I think it's 100k virtual currency they give you, and you basically put in that currency into whatever stocks you want, and you watch how the market changes, and you see if you'd profit or loss. So it's great. It's great to get started and improve your investing skills. So hop on and try the demo, guys, because it's really awesome, especially if you want to get started and you're not really as interested in the Aussie stocks. So looking at Plus500, we're going to look at some pros and cons. It's very easy to use, very easy to hop on and look at all the different stocks it has, and it has very low spreads for these stocks, and it's highly regulated, so it's pretty well renowned as a safe kind of website to trade on. Now some of the cons include it's got a fairly limited range of stocks, and they're only CFDs as well at that rate. So you don't really have access to everything in the global stock market, but you have access to a range of several companies that you'd want to invest in. All the big ones: Coke, Amazon, Google, Apple, all that stuff, Samsung, and it makes it really easy because they're all in one place. But this is the cons. So it has a high like brokerage costs per investment, but that's kind of a given when you're looking at the international stock market. But some might argue that it has higher financing rates than other kind of IG.com and other international investing websites, basically. And another thing is just it's kind of got limited research tools, but for what they are, I personally like them. But for maybe a more experienced investor, it's probably pretty minimal. So looking at Plus500, guys, we can see all the different commodities here. We can go to the rises and fallers. So looks like Netflix has had a great change today, and basically all the commodities and cryptos and whatever. So when we click on one, we get this graph similar to the ones on Commsec. However, you have a line which is the current sell rate, which is basically an indicator of where people are selling on the market today, and basically what's a fair value for your stock. So you can kind of see here that it's got these candlesticks again, but this is very useful because we can talk about a little bit of investment analysis here. So this is just going to be a really brief kind of generalized version. If you want some real technical analysis advice, go on YouTube and type that up, and you'll see some higher quality than mine. But basically, these candlesticks, when you see a great change where there's little resistance, so green obviously means share price is increasing, and when it has these steep candlesticks, that's a good indicator that it's growing strongly with very little resistance. Resistance you'll see is when it's trending upwards, green, then it'll pull back with a little bit of red, and then green, red, green, like it is resistance against the upward trend. So basically what you want to look for when you're we'll start with selling, is when you're having a great increase, so a very steep upward line with very little resistance, and once you're up above that current sell rate, you can kind of get a gist of when it's going to kind of turn and the market's going to pull it back down. So that's the kind of point where you want to be looking for, like at the top of a peak where you see it's a bit of red and the green slowed down, the growth slowed, and it's going to be pulling back toward that current sell rate line. That's a good time to sell. Make your profits while you've earned them. However, if we're talking about buying, it's virtually the opposite. So when it's red, getting down, you can feel the market's about to upward swing. What I like to do is wait for a little bit of green to come in, a little bit of growth, and then when that growth often doesn't show any resistance, that's a perfect time to jump on board. And then, for day trading, guys, you really want to take your profits while you earn them and move on. So if you can make a few dollars off that, do so, but make sure you play around and use that demo to kind of increase your skills, and also look online and do your research. Really, that's the most important thing, guys. So Plus500 is just a really easy to access way to basically have an opportunity to invest in a lot of global stocks. And also I just want to say that for some reason they give all these discounts or whatever. Right up the top of my page it says fund your account with at least AU 750 and get a $200 bonus. So that seems like a pretty good deal, guys. So that's another benefit, I guess, of using Plus500. Okay, guys, that's going to be it for the video today. If you got this far, thanks so much for watching. So today we pretty much looked at Commsec and Plus500 as ways, websites or apps to get into investing into the stock market. So Commsec's great for looking at all the Aussie stocks. It's got quite cheap brokerage fees. I will also add, you can go to the international stocks page on Commsec and check that out too. You need to like apply for that kind of trading rights or whatever, so you can check that out yourself. There's also tons of tutorials on Commsec if I didn't explain anything well enough. So as for Plus500, I think it's also a great way to get started. I think the demo idea is great. You can just start off with virtual currency, build your skills up, and then when you have the capital, you can make your own moves then. So both are good ways to get started, and it just depends what kind of investing strategies that you're going to take into the future. So maybe for like a passive investor where you're going to just invest for the long term to make a portfolio, maybe Commsec is perfect for you because you get access to all that kind of research and cheap brokerage costs as well. Plus500 might be great for getting on those large market cap stocks and doing things like day trading, using those candlestick graphs to kind of make some dosh. So that's going to be it for the video, guys. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Hope you're all having a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.